Hey everybody, it's Janet Hinageshi! Well, my first long-form video was about the narrative of the first Music Battle album where I explained the events and analyzed the debatedly lyricless and oddball songs. I'm now moving on to individual long-form videos that will cover one remaining lyrical song at a time from the Japanese Yuyu Hakusho CDs. Now, I know there have been votes and requests for songs already, but I started scripts for a few songs before all my short videos of the song list were released, so I'm starting with those before the most requested ones. But one song that I'd already written a script for happened to be both a song that was voted for on a YouTube poll and a written request on Facebook, so that's the one I'm starting with. And that song is Cry Lonely Cry by younger Toguro. Lots of Season 2 spoilers ahead, and at least one Season 3 spoiler. So this song is only on 2 albums. The third Music Battle CD, Demon World Legends, which has dialogue before the track, and the Memorial CD box where it plays without the dialogue. This song is so rare that I didn't even know about it until I started this project. As for the people who worked on the song, voice actor Tesho Genda reprises his role as younger Toguro. The lyrics were written by Ginzryo Akiya, who also wrote the lyrics for Kuwabara's songs Dachi and A&E Thank You, Yusuke's song Dead or Alive Toshin, Chu's song Ma no Meyo, Itsuki's song Never-Ending Dreams, and Toguro's other lyrical song Icy Blood. Takefume Haketa composed and arranged the song, and he also composed and arranged Suzuki's song Utsukushi Tsukite. He arranged the group song Boku Tachi no Kisetsu, as well as Sensui's song Unbelievable, and he composed Hiei's and Yoko's duet songs Dark Side Stories. Cry Lonely Cry has 114 beats per minute and is the most minor key sounding song ever, which is in B minor specifically. So the song starts off with a very dramatic, very mournful organ blast with an accompanying guitar. It's very emotional, very wistful in both the music and the vocals. I don't know what it is about it exactly, but it reminds me of Total Eclipse of the Heart. The interlude makes me think of an 80s power ballad, like something you'd hear on one of those compilation albums on an infomercial. Now, it's not fast enough to headbang to, but maybe a powerful groove or a head nod. Like you can feel the guitarist getting into it. A long-haired guy with a headband just feeling it. It does fade out a lot and then crash back in moments later. There are some lines in English that unfortunately undermine the emotional impact because the thick accent makes it sound a bit off when you hear them as a native speaker, so I do feel the lyrics themselves are more impactful when they're read as opposed to listened to, at least in my opinion as someone who is only fluent in English. Like, the title is said in a line, and it's not too bad, but before he gets there, he sings Don't Say Goodbye, and it doesn't quite hit right. It makes me think of a Japanese businessman singing karaoke and trying to belt it out like a crooner song or something. It's a little out of his element, but that's okay. So I read somewhere that when some of these songs were released as OVAs and puts clips or unique music videos onto a DVD for the North American release, that Funimation wanted to do English versions of the songs but couldn't get the licensing, which I touched on in the Music Battle CD video. Now, this song was not featured in that DVD, so it wouldn't have been recorded in English anyway, but I do wonder how Damian Clark would have sounded if he had covered this song. I only know his voice work as Toguro, and we know he never sang anything in the show, so I don't know how well Damian sings or what he would sound like as Toguro singing. If you're familiar with his other roles, let me know in the comments if there are any roles where he sings. I looked up characters that he voices, and some are Scar in the original Fullmetal Alchemist series, Kazuma Soma and Fruits Basket, and Handsome Jack in Borderlands. Here's a reminder not to trust Google's top AI results, because it says all those characters of his I just named are all known for their powerful singing abilities. While I can't say for certain if that's true for the ones outside of Yu Yu Hakusho, I know for a fact that that definitely doesn't apply to Toguro. I saw that he also voices Cell in DBZ, but I'm not a fan, so I don't know if that character ever sang or if his voice is even close to Toguro's. I tried to see if there was a clip of that character singing on YouTube, but all I found was the abridged version of the character singing, which isn't too bad. But all I could imagine was abridged Yami singing. And I've completely gone off track at this point, so I'm just going to move on. As I mentioned earlier, there is dialogue before the song in the third Music Battle CD, where Toguro basically tells Genkai not to waste her time on him and that he's caused nothing but trouble. He says for her to instead focus on Yusuke because if he ends up making the wrong choices, he'll end up like him. This isn't the exact thing he said to her in the anime during their scene in Spirit World together, but very close and expanded upon. We didn't really see this apologetic side of him in the show very much, until he became much more humble once he got to Spirit World after being defeated. And he does show regret for his actions then, famously telling Genkai that it would have been a beautiful life had he acted on his tender feelings for her instead of going down this path of hate that he chose. The lines in the song that best reference his conversation with Genkai on that bridge translate to, "Don't say goodbye. I want you to leave without sending me off. I want to banish myself to oblivion." Because that's what she was doing, and that's where he was going. The lyrics mostly expand on both his regret and his acceptance of the consequences of the actions that he chose. He starts off by singing that being happy is a faded memory to him like a faraway wind. He later sings that when the next wind comes, he wants to just disappear and be forgotten. There's a fierce passion in his heart that cries out in sorrow and loneliness, his cry, lonely cry. When it comes to forgiving others, some people agree with the phrase, forgive and forget. Others prefer, forgive, but don't forget. Togoro's sentiment when it comes to himself seems to be, forget, don't forgive. The afterlife punishment he chose for himself was for his soul to be tortured until it ceased to exist. His corrupted identity was so deeply tied into everything he fought for being right that losing against Yusuke made him feel like there was nothing left of him. Now, I watched this show many times, but it wasn't until recently that I fully understood why he felt this way. It wasn't just about losing a fight. It was about how Yusuke represented embracing humanity while Toguro represented selling your soul for power. And that's something I had trouble with for a long time, because I always felt that proving who's stronger isn't the same as proving who's right. If you say that 2 plus 2 is 5, and I say 2 plus 2 is 4, but you beat me up, that doesn't prove that 2 plus 2 is 5. All that beating me up proved is that you could beat me up. But one day, it did click for me. They wanted to know which philosophy was stronger specifically in the context of fighting. Can the full potential of a purely human spirit beat the corrupted soul of a body made into the highest class of demon? Yusuke and Toguro bet their lives to find out. Even though it turned out Yusuke wasn't fully human and Toguro wasn't the highest class of demon, so their argument was more like 2 plus 2 is 5 versus 2 plus 2 is 3, or something like that. But anyway, Yusuke was just a kid who was still figuring himself out, while Toguro was much older and had already defined his life by his extreme beliefs and sinful actions. Toguro really thought that because he was unable to protect his students from the demon that destroyed them, that it was his own fault for not being stronger, for not being as powerful and ruthless as the demon that destroyed his students. His survivor's guilt was so strong that it completely rewired his brain. So instead of seeing a bully as being wrong for beating up a kid, he saw it as a failure on the part of the beaten-up kid's defender. And some people really do think like that. It's like saying, this is the reality of nature where it's survival of the fittest, and that if you're too weak, you don't deserve to live. So instead of placing the blame on Chiron for being the one to destroy his students, he blamed himself for not being stronger than Chiron. Even though technically, Toguro wasn't even around when Chiron took out his students, so it was more of a matter of proximity than strength. The plot would have made more sense if Chiron wiped out the students while Toguro was actively fighting to defend them. But since Toguro wasn't even there when it happened, it would have made more sense if he became more obsessed with always being around someone in order to protect them out of paranoia that something bad will happen to them if he's not there to stop it. Imagine if his trauma and grief manifested as being extremely clingy instead. And what if that made Genkai crazy to the point of destroying Toguro, and then she becomes corrupted with grief and guilt? She decides that the true way of living is by loveless solitude and hyper-independence. She ends up taking a similar path of evil like Toguro did, eventually targeting Yusuke for learning to believe in his friends. That actually would have fit into the show's theme of learning the power of friendship and valuing connections. Feel free to use that for a fanfiction idea. But anyway, what did you think of my analysis? Do you agree? Did I get something wrong? Did I leave something out? Do you have a different interpretation? A different translation? Let me know in the comments. If you haven't heard the song yet, go listen to it and come back and tell me what you think. Also, let me know which song you want me to do next. You've got over 50 to choose from, and you can always refer back to my 16 shorts for a refresher. And be sure to follow me for weekly Sunday video releases to learn more about lesser-known Yu Yu Hakusho content and trivia, such as songs from the Japanese CDs. Don't forget to share the love.